Roubina մասնաճյուղի 16-րդ կանանց միջազգային օրվա ցերեկային։ Մենք որպես հանցավարներ Գերմանի Վիգիլիազարյան եւ ես Շիկ Պապազյան Ներքոնյան պիտի ներկայացնենք այսօրվա հայրաճյուղը։
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, ARS Canada board members, ARS Toronto Roubina chapter board members, our keynote speakers, Mary Kuyuja, Scout Tufengja, and special guests, Atome Goya, and previous keynote speaker, Sipa Basmajan. We respectfully acknowledge that ARS IWD 2025 is taking place in City of Vaughan, which is situated in the Territory and Treaty 13 lands of the Mississaugas of Credit First Nation. The City of Vaughan is currently home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to celebrate today's event in this territory. What a beautiful day to celebrate women. We would like to welcome you all to ARS Toronto Roubina Chapter's 16th Annual International Women's Day celebration. I, Puri Gehazaya, along with Yushik Papazyan Merkonya, will be your masters of ceremonies today.
Այժմ ցերեկան կհամարենք եւ ցես կհրավիրենք ընտրելու օնագայս Կանադայի, Հայաստանի, Արցախի եւ Մոմի քայլերները, որում իհաջորդեն հանձնախմբի Սանենաբեդ Գևորգի Վիզաժիչոյանի եւ փոխադենաբեդ Գևորգի Ռուբինա Քեշկերյան Քեշիշյանի կազմած խոսքերը.
We will begin our event with the national anthems of Canada, Armenia, Artsakh, and the Armenian Relief Society. The video will be followed by welcome messages from ARS IWD 2025 Committee Chair, Liza Shishoyan, and Co-Chair, Roubina Koshkerian Keshishian, delivered in both Armenian and English. I would now like to ask those who are able to stand up for the national anthems.
Բարի եկացիք։ Այսօր Հոմի Տորոնտոյի Ռուբինա մասնաճյուղը կդոնի իր 16-րդ կանանց միջազգային օրը։ Դարիները վերած ցերնարգը գեղեցիկ արի ստեղծած է քաղաքից կիներուն համախմբվելու եւ նշելու հայ կանանց հաջողություններն ու նվաճումները զանազան մարզերու մեջ։ Հայ կնոջները շնորհիվ իր անձնազոհության եւ նվիրատվության մեր ժողովրդի ամբողջ պատմության ընթացքին եւ հատկապես վերջին 100-ամյակի եղած է հիմնական իր ընտանեկան օջախին բահաբան մեր ազգային ինքնության եւ մշակութային արժեքներու ավանդություններու գոյատևման ու անոնց հարաճիգա սերունդներու փոխանցման գործընթացի մեջ 115-ամյա հոմը միջազգայինորեն ջանցված իր հիմնադրությանորեն եղած է միշտ մատնեշի վրա բահբանելով իր ազգային թիմակիցը, միշտ կանգնելով հայ ժողովրդին կողքին, շարունակելով իր մարտահրավերական գործունեության ճանապարհը, շնորհիվ իր նվիրյալ անդամներուն միշտ հավատարիմ մնալով տեսլականի ժողովրդիս հետ ժողովրդիս համար։ Սիրելիներ, այսօր հայ առաքելական եկեղեցու ժողովրդական դոներեն հում բարեգենտանն է, որ ուրախության, արադության և բարի գենտանության դոն է։ Ինչպես գիտեք, Մեծիդանգիլի գեոգաթողիկոս Արամ Այբ 2025 տարին հռչակեց ավանդություններու վերագենսավորման տարի։ Արդ, որպես հայ օգնության միություն, որ հայ մշակույթին և ավանդություններուն կուրկուրոտ բահաբանն է, մեր պարտականությունն է շարունակենք դերը կանգնել մեր ավանդություններուն և փոխանցենք զանոնք հաջորդ սերունդներուն։ Եվ վերջապես սիրելիներ, ըստ մասնաճյուղիս կանանչ միջազգային օրվա ցերնարգին սովորության յուրաքանչյուր տարի հասույթ են որոշ բաժինը կհատկացվի հայրենիքեն ներս և կամ տեղական որոշ հաստատություններու։ Այս տարի նկատի ունենք հետևյալ երկու հաստատությունները՝ հայրենիքեն ներս հոմի զոհված հերոսներու զավակներ ծրագրին, իսկ Թորոնտոյի մեջ Women's Brain Health Initiative հաստատության։ Բարի եղեցեք և բարի ժամանց։ Շնորհակալություն։
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ARS Canada board members, ARS Toronto Roubina chapter board members, esteemed keynote speakers, Mary Kuyumjam and Scout Tufengcham, honored guest, Mr. Atomegoyan, previous keynote speaker, Ms. Silva Basmadjan, and dear friends. Welcome to the 16th Annual International Women's Day celebration of the ARS Toronto Roubina chapter. For years, this event has provided a wonderful opportunity for the women of our community to unite and celebrate the achievements and successes of Armenian women in various fields. Today, we continue this tradition by recognizing the strength, resilience, and progress of women worldwide. For 115 years, the Armenian Relief Society has been internationally recognized for its unwavering dedication to humanitarian work. Since its inception, ARS has stood at the forefront, preserving our national identity while providing support to the Armenian people. Through the tireless efforts of its devoted members, ARS remains steadfast in its vision, with the people, for the people. Throughout history, Armenian women have been the pillars of our families and our nation, embodying selflessness and relentless commitment. Over the past century, they have played a crucial role in preserving the family unit, safeguarding our cultural values, and ensuring the continuity of our traditions for future generations. Today, as we celebrate International Women's Day, we acknowledge the immense contributions that women make across the globe, as well as the barriers they continue to break down. In times of crisis, women are leaders of resilience, organizing, protecting, and providing in ways that ensure survival and progress. Their strength, wisdom, and tireless dedication are fundamental to building stronger, more equitable societies. Yet, despite their central role, women continue to face challenges in achieving true equality. It's time to accelerate action and ensure that women's voices and contributions are recognized, celebrated, and supported. The theme for International Women's Day 2025 is Accelerate Action. Accelerating action means moving beyond words and taking decisive steps forward towards achieving true gender equality. It's about challenging outdated norms, breaking down barriers, and ensuring that women everywhere have equal opportunities to thrive. When we actively work to amplify women's voices, demand equal rights, and create inclusive spaces, we build a stronger, more just, and resilient world. There is power in collective action, whether it's advocating for policy change, supporting women-led initiatives, or mentoring the next generation. It's time to go beyond celebrating achievements. We must push for concrete change. The success of one woman should inspire and empower another, creating a ripple effect of progress and transformation. Together, we can accelerate progress, uplift women, and forge a future where equality is not just an aspiration, but a reality. A portion of today's proceeds will be donated to Children of Fallen Heroes, an ARS program in Armenia, and Women's Brain Health Initiatives here in Toronto. Thank you all for being here today, and we hope you enjoy your afternoon.
Nushi, did you know International Women's Day can be traced back to New York City in 1908?
Այո, կանաչ միջազգային օրը ծագում արած է Ամերիկայի Միացյալ Նահանգներում մեջ 1908 թվականին։ Եվ մեծ թվով գիներ ցույցեր կկազմակերպեն փետրվարի վերջին գիրակին եւ կպահանջեն գիներու քաղաքական եւ տնտեսական իրավունքները։
Speaking of New York, Armenian Relief Society, ARS, was founded in New York in 1910. What a coincidence, eh? For those who don't know, ARS is an independent, non-governmental organization recognized by the United Nations.
Գիներու իրավունքներու բահաբանն ու չահագին եղած է վեհ առաքինության օժտված հայ օգնության միությունը, որ հիմնված է Ամերիկայի Միացյալ Նահանգներում Նյու Յորք քաղաքի մեջ 1 հունվար 1910 թվականին հայ Կարմիր խաչ անվան տակ, որպես ոչ կառավարական կազմակերպություն, ինչպես նաև անդամ է Միացյալ Ազգերի կազմակերպության։
All right, let's bring it back to Toronto. Our very own ARS Toronto Roubina chapter. With its over 400 members, ARS Toronto Roubina chapter has been devoted to humanitarian and charity work for over 60 years. That's another one.
Միայն հոմի Թորոնտոյի Ռուբինա մասնաճյուղը ավելի քան 400 անդամներով դարիներ շարունակ աշխատած է իրականացնել հոմի նպատակները Թորոնտոհայ կամուտի մեջ, ինչպես նաև օգնության ցեր երկարած է հայրենիքին եւ Արցախին։
Now on to today, March 2nd, why we're all here. ARS IWD 2025. I know you're all eagerly waiting to hear our wonderful keynote speakers, and now the moment has come, so I won't make you wait much longer, except I will.
Այժմ կհրավիրենք օրվա աշխարհահռչակ բանախոսները երկհան եւ ավերագրական շարժաբատկերներում մասնակից Մարիկույն ջան եւ լուսանկարիչ Սկավուտ Ֆեքջան, որոնց վիդեոն ներկայացնեն պարոն Ատոմիկոյանը։
We'd like to invite Atomigoyan to the stage to present Marikuyuk Jan and Scout Fengjan. Thank you.
Armenian life needs to be observed. Our lives as Armenians has to be recorded. We've learned over and over again that if these recordings are not made, our lives as Armenians could well be completely erased. We need brilliant artists to observe our lives. Without the observations and feeling transmitted about our lives, we are truly lost. Who's observing our lives in these days as we are facing such a moment of existential crisis? It was painful to see these images of Artsakh, wasn't it? We are in the presence today of two such extraordinary artists. I'm very happy to introduce them because I've actually written introductions to both of their works. In my introduction to Scout Tufangchan's wonderful book, There Is Only the Earth, yes, a really beautiful title, I wrote 10 years ago about Scout. The hidden narrative of any diaspora is the question of what might have been. Tufangchan takes neither sad nor nostalgic pictures of the places left behind, but rather infuses each of her images with loving vibrancy and a beguiling sense of the possibilities to come. Scout's great accomplishment is to gather our mysterious nation together through an act of observation, selection, and presentation. Many of these words could as easily be used to introduce the work of the wonderful composer and my friend, Mary Kuyunjan. Mary has recently observed one of my works, the feature film Adoration. And by the way, I have to say that my new film is opening in 1 week. So, 7 Veils, tell everyone to go and see it in the theaters on Friday. Anyway. Mary has recently observed one of my works, the feature film Adoration, and filtered it through her brilliant imagination, where it was presented in her richly textured and beautifully reimagined opera presented in Los Angeles just a couple of weeks ago, after it was presented in New York last year. She also has a new recording coming out in the near future called, so simply and powerfully, Witness. Mary calls herself, with equal emphasis, I think, a composer and a documentarian. Is that correct? And the way she's able to integrate recorded testimonies of members of our communities with the extraordinary artistry and interpretation of the Kronos Quartet is overwhelmingly moving. As I wrote in my intro to her new CD, this collection is an open letter to the tragic hymn of transmitted trauma and the possibility of art and magnificently gifted artists to help create new life. So we're honoring these 2 great artists, welcoming them to Toronto, and it's such a privilege to be with you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to everyone in this room for the invitation to be here. It's such an honor to be among so many incredible women. So, we will talk about this project that's projected here. This is my collaboration with the wonderful Scout. But in the meantime, I was told that we have a mix of maybe some students who are here in the classroom, or here in the classroom, I'm an educator. My brain is always going towards teaching. If you are a student, can you raise your hand? Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, welcome to my music class. I hope that you enjoy it today. All right, so a little bit of my background is I grew up playing classical and jazz piano. My parents, when they came to the States, they really loved music, but they also were incredibly busy. They worked 6 days a week at a mini market, a deli, a bodega, whatever you would like to call it. But even while they were busy, they knew the importance of music and the arts, especially coming from an Armenian community where we value it so much. So they put my brother and I into music lessons. I did not enjoy playing the piano. I'm so sorry. I know we have Eva Goyen here. You're a gem amongst gems for the work that you do. For me, sitting in the practice room was extremely difficult, and I didn't have quite that focus. And at the same time as I was pursuing piano lessons, I was also falling in love with film soundtracks. And the amazing thing about film soundtracks is that they're written by contemporary composers. They're not written by dead classical composers. So all of a sudden, 17-year-old Mary went, oh, I could do music, but I could write music for film, and I could be a composer that way. So I went to the University of California, San Diego, and I did a major in both composition and film studies. I moved to New York, to NYU, where I got a master's in scoring for film and multimedia. Eventually got another master's and a doctorate of musical arts at Columbia University. And then I started working as a film, TV, and commercial composer. But something felt like it was missing. Something about the creative process didn't feel as fulfilling as I was hoping it could feel. I wanted to be my own creative director. I wanted to choose my own projects. I wanted to choose the music that I wanted to be making for the projects that I wanted to be working on. And I thought, you know what, I would really like to be a composer for live performance, for concert halls. I want to work with musicians in the same room. I want to engage with the audience in real time. So that is the work that I primarily do, and I'll talk about that soon. But I am also an educator. I really believe in artists giving back to the larger community through education, in encouraging the next generation to not only explore different musical languages and processes, to also feel empowered to say the things that are meaningful to them and to explore that through sound. So I currently teach at the New School, which is a performing arts and visual arts school in New York, and at Johns Hopkins University at their conservatory Peabody. I've taught at a whole bunch of different places, everything from music history to how to code and program for sound installations and whatever it might be. I think exploring many different areas of the arts is really valuable to a diverse creative language. But let's talk about my creative work. By the way, I would like to introduce you to my family here. I know some of my cousins, these are your parents here. My creative work is very much informed by my personal heritage and my family's experiences. My projects tend to focus on conflicts connected to Armenia, to the Caucasus, the Middle East, and their diasporas in the United States. I tend to write a lot of pieces that focus on refugees, displacement, and migration, with causes from everything from not just the Armenian genocide, but the genocides that are going on around the world, to also displacement as a result of climate change. I really value my current freedom of expression to speak up and really say something. I think that artists have an immense responsibility to use their platforms to say things that are big, to say things that our politicians fail to say on our behalves. For the time being, I have the freedom of expression with very little consequence, except maybe a bad review here and there. That is diminishing in the United States for the time being, but while we have it, I will always say something. And the way that I choose to speak is by integrating both music and documentary, or what I call true narrative form. So what is music documentary to me? I'll tell you what music documentary is not to me first. So it is not a documentary about music or musicians. It is not music that serves to underscore a documentary film or maybe a podcast. It is creating and presenting music that documents real life, real environments, and real people. And for my own works, this includes, one, composing music for musicians to perform, gathering and editing audio recorded interviews with people who have lived through extraordinary circumstances. So some of those are people that I have immediate access to. Some of those are people who I'm meeting through friends. Traveling with Scout, she has a vibrant connection to people in the Armenian community, especially in Armenia, activists and community members who want to share their stories and will volunteer to do interviews with me. I also work with journalists who have interviews that I can license, who have greater access than I might, or have areas of expertise that are different than my own. And I love gathering and editing field recordings of folk musicians and environment, nature of city, place, and circumstance, and considering how to do this not just legally, but also ethically. And what field recordings mean is, did you see in the last slide, there's like a little fuzzy microphone and a bunch of, there's like a beekeeper's area. So whenever I travel, I like to bring a little handheld recorder, and I just engage with my environment that way. Instead of taking a lot of photos, I take a lot of sounds. I record the birds around me and what it sounds like to walk. If I'm in Armenia, what does the ground actually sound like? What are the conversations that I'm having with people? So why use music documentary as a form of storytelling? I believe that music allows the time and space to share and process content that is challenging. If you go to a concert, you're there for 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. That is a set amount of time in which you are asked to sit with your own thoughts. Sometimes you're bored while you're watching a performance. I think that that's the most constructive time while your mind is wandering and processing the things that you're hearing. Documentary recordings also allow the audience member to feel that the narrator is speaking naturally and intimately, offering human-to-human connections and fostering empathy between listener and speaker. So I could interview someone who's talking about their displacement from Artsakh, and I could take those words and I can ask a singer to sing them in a beautiful piece of music. That's one approach. But for me, it's more important for you to hear those words in the concert setting from the person who actually experienced them. I think that creates a stronger line of empathy between them and hopefully you. I believe that this empathy is essential in fostering a community that is more open-minded and likely to act. So it's not enough for me to tell an audience, you need to care about the displacement of Armenians from Artsakh. I can't just say, care about this, write to your politicians, protest, do something. There has to be some kind of emotional connection to that cause, an emotional connection to the individual who's experienced that displacement. And I believe that discomfort and safely exploring the medium of horror through the arts, whether in subject or sonic quality, invites processing, reflection, and can ignite desire for change. And the reason why I bring up horror is, while I think that beautiful music does serve its purpose, I also think that safely exploring things that are difficult, that sound a little ugly, that sound just uncomfortable, allow us to process very difficult things. There's, whether or not you like Stephen King films, there's a really wonderful quote by Stephen King in talking about why he creates horror films, and he says, "We make up horrors to help us process the real ones." I really believe that that space in the concert hall can be very productive. What I wanted to do was share a little bit of my music. I am actually maybe doing something kind of unconventional. I'm not sharing a piece of music that directly addresses Armenian issues. You all are aware of the issues. Instead, I'm going to share a piece that sort of expands this idea of displacement and engages with other communities. I think that as Armenians, we also have to be allies to other communities who have experienced displacement and genocide. So some of my works now are expanding beyond our own immediate culture. One of those is this project called Paper Pianos. Paper Pianos is a 90-minute stage, like theatrically staged, music and documentary work exploring the dislocation, longing, and optimism of refugees. This piece, I'm very proud to say, was a finalist for the 2024 Pulitzer Prize in Music. Thank you. But I did not make it alone. I had collaborators with their own experiences and perspectives. Writer and director Nigel Meester, who brought his perspective from South Africa. Projection artist Kevrik Murad. Does anyone know Kevrik Murad's work? Yeah, oh wonderful. Beautiful Armenian artist from Syria, now in New York. And set designer Afsun Pajafar from Iran. This is a piece that's written for a small chamber orchestra of about 20 musicians. There is audio playback, which means that if you were in the concert hall, there would be speakers here, and through those speakers, you would hear the interviews of refugees telling their experiences. And there's a film made by Kevrik Murad, and all of the musicians are asked to move around the stage. There are no actors, the musicians are choreographed. I thought I would share a little excerpt of this. Before the excerpt. So the piece combines narratives from 4 refugees and resettlement workers. Pianist Milad Yusufi from Afghanistan, and refugees and refugee resettlement workers Getachew Bashir from Ethiopia, Hani Ali from Somalia, and Akil Al-Jaish from Iraq. So these refugee resettlement workers work in New York, and I interviewed them about what is it like coming to New York State for a refugee? What is the process like? What do the first 3 months look like? How do you help them? How do they acclimate? What are their expectations economically, with language? So they shared that process. But also a lot of refugee resettlement workers are also refugees themselves. They're paying it forward. These are the jobs that were available to them. So they also shared their own experience of what it was like to come to New York, which in summary is very difficult. It is very, very difficult. Now Milad, this person who's pictured here, is a very extraordinary person. Milad Yusufi was a pianist back in Kabul, Afghanistan, but he had been targeted by the Taliban for pursuing music because music and art were forbidden by the Taliban. So the way that he taught himself how to play the piano was he would draw a keyboard, he would actually paint a keyboard on a piece of paper, and he would silently practice every day. And he did this until the Taliban momentarily took a pause. They've since resumed, but during that pause, people who had buried their instruments in their yards to not be discovered started to unearth their instruments, started to dig up their instruments, and it was only then that Milad had access to this piano. So I'm going to share a little clip of Milad sharing the story of what it was like to finally dig up this piano from the earth. You'll also hear Akil sharing his experience in Iraq, sort of two stories at the same time. And Akil was talking about when he was in school and he had been speaking out against the government, and the government comes and kidnaps him from school. It's a little dark, it's a little heavy, we're all ready for it? Okay, let's do it. Thank you so much for your open-mindedness and listening.
They didn't like that. Even that for the day wasn't fun. So they didn't touch it. They used it to us and when we told I was 17, it started all the way to the dream country. I conceived. I practiced all the time. I've been playing the piano and sleeping on the piano. I used to sleep on it. It was a dream come true, but at the end of this story, I slowly become more.
So this piece, my original intent for this is I want to bring an awareness of the refugee crisis. I want people to hear stories from different corners of the world. What I hadn't anticipated was the direct impact that this piece would have on Milad. So when I met Milad, he had just moved to the United States. He was looking for a piano to practice on, and his immigration lawyer forwarded this request to a musician, who forwarded it to a musician, who sent it then to me. And I said, well, I have a piano. As you all know, I don't enjoy practicing the piano. I have a piano. Milad is welcome to practice on my piano. And I got to know him, and he shared his story. And this piece ended up being a part of his immigration case for his citizenship here in the United States. He had to prove that he had impact on his local community in New York. As the piece got attention, more and more musicians paid attention to Milad. We collectively got him into university. He has his bachelor's in piano, his master's in composition. He's a beautiful composer. He just won an Emmy for original music for a documentary. He's doing really, really great. So from his own doing and his own talent and his own advocacy. But this idea, I want us to think about, can the arts create change? And is it tangible? So why I do what I do, part of it is exploring and processing family and cultural history, but it's also about propelling our culture forward, making new musical and new visual art, because we in this room have the privilege and the opportunity to do so. We have the freedom of expression that our ancestors didn't have. We have a responsibility to not only draw attention to our own Armenian community's experiences, but also to be an ally and support communities beyond our own who experience displacement. And I also have a love of connecting people. It's isolating being a composer in front of a computer for lots of hours a day. I love connecting with extraordinary people through interviews, and hopefully the audience gets to connect with them too.
So some questions I'd like to leave you with. Can the arts spark change? Can a piece of music change the world for the better? Can a piece of music change the world for the worse? Can a piece of music change a person for the better? Can a piece of music change a person for the worse? Is the impact of music and art measurable or even tangible? Do we simply operate on faith that it is? What do we choose to say with our privilege and platform? And how do we choose to say it in a way that is genuine, informed, and with purpose? And for me, while I don't believe that this piece or any of the pieces of music that I write will in themselves change someone's mind, encourage them to act differently or vote differently or the way that they engage with politics or the social world, I hope that my works with our collective artistic community's works ultimately foster a larger community that is more open-minded, that cares, and is more likely to act on direct change. Just with these last few moments, I wanted to leave us with it's a short 3-minute excerpt of music. This is the last movement of my piece, Silent Cranes, which is a music documentary work around the Armenian genocide. In this last movement, I was working with investigative journalist David Barsamian of Alternative Radio, and I asked David, why is it important to talk about the genocide? This is then 100 years later in 2015, and this is how he responded. So you'll hear his response, and underneath it you'll hear some music. It's a beautiful recording of Grung, but as performed by Zibel Panosian, who recorded this in 1917. This version of Grung is not the Gomidas one that we maybe more generally are aware of. This version is unique to her village of Barduzag, and there's also some string quartet accompanying her recording as well.
A century is a long time. It is and it isn't. The lost child of Bitlis cries out, Mairig, Mairig, Ures, Minagem, Gavachnam. Mother, mother, where are you? I am alone and afraid.
Young ladies and girls.
Those who control the present control the past, and those who control the past control the future. Orwell. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Santayana. The struggle of humankind against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. The assassination of Allende quickly covered over the memory of the Russian invasion of Czechoslovakia. The bloody massacre in Bangladesh caused Allende to be forgotten. The din of war in the Sinai drowned out the groans of Bangladesh. The massacres in Cambodia caused the Sinai to be forgotten. And so on and on and on, until everyone has completely forgotten everything. Kundera. Who speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians? Hitler. Yergir. Homeland, water so clean, air so pure, fruits and vegetables so tasty. So survivors of the genocide told me, maybe with some exaggeration. Yergir, a magical place full of wonder and cruelties. Turkey, a crime scene. No more Enver and Talat statues and streets. No more pretending it didn't happen. No more macho posturing. Liberate yourselves from twisted and toxic nationalist narratives. Ambassador Morgenthau, where are the Armenians heading? Talat, their destination is the abyss. the keepers of memories and dreams keep coming up like weeds to remind you and ourselves of the past. A faded but dear landscape drenched in blood, the burning of books and churches. We live in their ashes and beyond them. Against the ruin of the world, there is only one defense, the creative act, Rexroth. Let us play again in our gardens and fields and glory in the beauty of the flowers forever. A century is a long time. It is and it isn't. Why do I feel it is important to talk about the Armenian genocide 100 years later? It's important to complete the poems and eat the last pieces of lavash and bastel. Our grandparents are singing. Let's finish their songs.
Thank you all for inviting me. I grew up in a small Massachusetts town a couple of hours away from the main Armenian community. We would make the drive to get lahmacun or grated cheese, but it wasn't like growing up in Glendale or Borchamut or even Scarborough. For me, seeing other Armenians, even in a book, was a special occasion. There were a few Armenian families who spent summers in my town, and we would get together every weekend for kebabs and dolma, but beyond that, my main exposure to the Armenian community was through my grandparents. So there are few people as colorful as a colorful Armenian, and my grandfather, shown there with a dog in one hand and a goat in the other, was a colorful Armenian, continuing to live like he had never left the village, filling their all-American suburban backyard with goats and sheep that would inevitably get loose and run around town with my totally humiliated father and uncles in hot pursuit. My days with them were spent in the backseat of their car as they visited a seemingly inexhaustible network of other Armenians. They would catch up on some gossip, have some sorch, and then go on to the other friends' houses, the goodbyes lasting longer than the supposed visit. I hated it. It's amazing how our lives have been changed by these events we were forced into by our families that we hated. I didn't know the people they were gossiping about. I didn't care about the people they were gossiping about. They spoke in two languages I barely understood. They wouldn't let me have any coffee. It was terrible. Luckily for me, all of these houses had these giant piles of Armenian newspapers and magazines stacked in front of the fireplace or on the coffee table. I still don't remember whose house we were in or even what publication it was, but I remember opening one of the magazines and seeing a giant map of the world covered in little dots. I don't remember whether or not the dots stood for agons or HDUs, churches or schools, but I remember seeing them and realizing that where there were dots, there were Armenians. And I found it totally mind-blowing. There were Armenians in Brazil, Armenians in Hong Kong, Armenians in Argentina, the Soviet Union, Ethiopia, India, to a 6 or 7-year-old kid in a small town. These were places inconceivably far away, places I never imagined I could or would go to. This map and its little dots took up permanent residence in my brain. Everywhere I went, I looked for stories about these people. What were their lives like? I went to libraries and church bazaars, I poured through books, I watched every single one of the PBS documentaries, all at the same time looking for glimpses of their lives and wondering what it would be like to be a French-Armenian dancer in Paris, or a jeweler in Borchamut, or a university student in Moscow. And I could never find it. The only stories I could find were about the genocide. And like any Armenian kid, I already knew what happened in the genocide. I'd listened to my grandparents' stories, I'd read the books, I'd even argued with a denialist history teacher after turning in a middle school paper. What I didn't know is what happened to us after the genocide. And that infuriated me. We did not disappear into the desert of Deir ez-Zor. Look around you. That was not our whole story. There was so much more to be written and to be shown. And looking back on it, my drift into photojournalism now seems inevitable. I channeled my child's fury at a denialist history teacher into a career where I demanded that others see the things that I have seen. Part of being Armenian is this constant explaining to people that the things that happened to us actually happened. Even today, even here, we are still shouting to the world the war crimes over the past 5 years actually happened. And now that the ethnic cleansing of Artsakh has really happened. And that's part of what journalism is, especially photojournalism. A kind of desperate shouting that this thing that you saw or you lived or you experienced actually happened. And not only did it happen, but it matters. And it matters to the people in your picture because this is their lives, and it matters to them and hopefully to you, the viewer, seeing it. All these years ago, I realized that they might refuse to look beyond the genocide where it comes to my people's story, but I could try to make them see there were more to other people's stories. No matter who I was following, whether it's Haitian earthquake survivors struggling to find housing, or members of the Salafi community trying to navigate their way through post-revolutionary and pre-coup Egypt, or the grassroots movement surrounding future President Barack Obama. I tried to push beyond the headlines of the day and, frankly, the instructions of my editors, to look at these huge moments in history to find the individual people within it. Whether it was families worried about their kids joining up with the Egyptian revolution, not just because of legitimate fears for their lives or their safety, but because they were worried that they were using it to meet cute boys. Or the 15-year-old from Gary, Indiana, who had convinced his parents to drop him off in a different neighborhood after school so he could door knock for then Senator Barack Obama on his first presidential campaign. Or 8-year-old Mariam, who lived near the Rafah airport in southern Gaza, who was sheltering from the war in a UN school with her 10 brothers and sisters, some of whom missed home so much that her parents, out of all other ideas, drew a picture of the airport on the blackboard to try to comfort them. The whole time, though, there was this slight tug, a sneaking suspicion that there was another story I was supposed to be telling. And I had 1.5 million excuses for why I hadn't returned to my early childhood questions about our community. Some of them were practical. I was busy. I was trying to build a career. I had rent to pay. Most was just insecurity. While I certainly felt very Armenian, at the end of the day, I'd only been to Armenian churches for weddings and baptisms. My language skills were rudimentary at best. And I worried that these factors combined to make me not a good enough Armenian to tell our story. So looking back, I was obviously being a coward. As you can see, I'd spent my entire career working and building relationships in countries where I did not speak the language. I am not Palestinian, I am not Haitian, and I worked there for years. At the end of the day, even if I wasn't the right person to tell the story, even if no one cared about this other than me, I knew if I began working, I would at the very least know that I had tried. I just needed to figure out how to get started and then make myself start. The second part ended up being the easiest. In the wake of the first Obama campaign, I was on an extended book tour, doing interviews, giving talks, and at every single one, people say, "Oh, what's your next project?" And I said, "I'm doing a project about the Armenian diaspora." And so I had to do it. I'd said it on TV. The second part proved a little bit harder. So it seemed to make sense by trying to answer my earliest questions about the little dots on the map. What did it even mean? Was there even a global Armenian community? Did these kids in Moscow have the same experience of being Armenian as these kids in Hollywood and Los Angeles? Did being Armenian connect us if we were growing up in Hong Kong or in Hayastan? Did these scouts in DC and Cyprus think of themselves as being part of the same community? Was there a connection between this man and his very small dog in Los Angeles and these Artsakh dancers in Yerevan? Or had the different paths taken by our refugee grandparents and great-grandparents separated us in some way? And if we were all still one people, why? 100 years after we'd been scattered across the globe, were we even connected at all? I began looking for answers in Anjar. Now, everyone here knows where Anjar is. I assume many of you are from Anjar? Excellent. So I'm not going to explain Anjar to you, other than saying I have been hearing about Anjar my entire life, as some of my family has its roots in Musaler. So when an Anjarti friend invited me to their family's friend's henna night, I jumped at the opportunity. There was, of course, a catch. Anjartis, as you all know, are tough. You do not hold off a seemingly unstoppable wave of cultural imperialism by being wishy-washy. But if I was worried about being the wrong person to tell the story of the Armenian diaspora, why was I starting in Anjar, where people have been known to call Beiruti Armenians Yabanjos or Olars? What on earth were they going to think of this non-Armenian speaking, half-Armenian showing up in town with her camera? Anjar, or rather the idea of Anjar at the time, was extremely important to me, and I was incredibly, laughably afraid that I was going to screw it up. But a funny thing happened when I arrived. Something about the village felt like home to me. My friend's family felt like my family. The unmistakable sound of the Dawal Zorna brought me back to the backseat of my grandparents' car. The long afternoons remapping their old villages onto the highways and towns of Massachusetts. By the time the local priest was telling me stories about meeting my Musalerti great-grandmother, I had a whole new sense of my family and my history. So while Anjar showed me one continuation of our story, I knew there were more, and I chased them across the globe. Far from being disappeared, it was clear that our community was vast and vibrant and diverse. Over the next few years, I swam with resettled Syrian Armenian refugees in Artsakh. I attended candlelight vigils in Glendale, a Horovats party with the monks on San Lazaro Island in Venice, rooftop summer soirees in New York City. I celebrated Varkavar in Bolis. I watched the World Cup in pre-war Damascus, and I learned how to box at the Union of Russian Armenian Sporting Club in Moscow. As I moved across the map, I began to realize I was documenting an extremely important time in our history, not because we were approaching the centennial of the genocide, but also because what was happening to us then. And mind you, this was 10 years ago, so I had no idea what was to come. This picture is taken in Kovsakan, on the border between Artsakh and Iran. But even then, the Syrian Armenian community was being decimated by the brutality of the Syrian civil war. The families I photographed in pre-war Damascus, in Kesab, and in Halep had their lives completely changed. The once powerful Ethiopian Armenian community was down to a few remaining families. In Armenia, entire villages were emptied of working-age men as they traveled to Moscow or to Turkey to find work. And even more secure communities like Toronto or Los Angeles, people worried that our physical survival might be at the cost of our culture. So after all, what does it even mean to be Armenian? Is it only villages like Anjar that are keeping the community alive? Is it the church? Is it the organizations? Is it events like these? Is it the food? Or is it something more ephemeral? A woman in Argentina described it as membership in a secret club, invisible to non-members, but instantly recognizable to Armenians. We've all been in the situation where you're in a restaurant and you're like, those people are my people. A French Armenian told me, when I meet an Armenian, it's like we've been friends forever. The connection is there right away due to our history. But what is this history? Is it the genocide or is it something more? So midway through the project, I was losing focus. So I had having a hard time figuring out what story, or frankly, whose story I was trying to tell. And I had a friend who was going on what she called a vision quest to the old country. And I decided to tag along. We didn't go on organized tours. We just met in Adana with a guidebook, a smattering of our grandparents' Turkish between us, Google Translate, and a rough understanding of the shared taxi industry. It did not always go smoothly. No matter what the bus schedule says, Hajin is considerably more than 2 hours from Sis. And after many, many, many hours driving through nationalist towns and past far-right ultra-nationalist party offices, we hopped off the bus, bleary-eyed, into a snowy evening and were promptly taken to the police station after I inquired in my beyond broken Turkish if there was a place we could spend the night. But even that ended more or less fine, with my friend whipping the local constabulary in Tavla and one officer pulling us aside to haltingly retell his grandmother's stories about the time when the Armenians had been there. Stories that she told him to make sure that there was at least one person in town who knew the real history. And it was here that I started to understand what I was getting wrong, what I was missing. I've been trying to figure out what connected our people 100 years after we scattered across the globe, and I've been thinking about it completely wrong. I thought of 100 years as being a long time, but this land had been our home for 4,000 years. Compared to that, 100 years is nothing. The trees that we planted were still alive, the rivers ran along the same paths, many of our houses were still standing. All of us were raised by families forged in this or in other nearby lands. And this connection is impossible to erase in a mere 100 years, no matter how far we've been scattered across the globe, and no matter how different our lives may seem today. This is the history that ties us together. It's more than just a genocide. While the genocide is the defining trauma that runs through our past, and understandably reverberates through our present, we are not a disappeared people, and it does not define us. Our story began thousands of years before 1915, and no means did it end there. We are tied together by the strength of our survival. So 4 years after beginning my diaspora project, I returned to Anjar for Sur Hajj. In normal years, Armenians from Syria, Lebanon, and beyond come to Anjar for the festivities, the dal zorna, the dancing, the food, and more importantly, an all-night vigil next to the massive vats of harissa. That year was quieter. The reverberations from the Syrian civil war had hit Lebanon hard, and the road to Anjar, and even Anjar itself, was no longer considered 100% safe. Worried about the possibility of kidnapping or worse, many people stayed away, making the commemoration more local in spirit, although no less fervent. A month earlier, I myself had lost a lot of friends in the Syrian civil war, and that loss hung heavy in the shadows as the evening grew long. As I danced with my friends and sat up all night, mesmerized by the stirring of the harissa, I couldn't help but think what my great-grandmother would have thought of me. What would she have thought of this? Of me 100 years later, sitting surrounded by the descendants of her old neighbors, dancing to songs that she had loved. I kept seeing her face reflected in the older women of the village, my grandfather and some of the rowdier men, many of whom set up patrols to protect the village from possible dangers. My cousins and the young men and women flirting and laughing as they danced. If our collective history is reflected within us, it was my specific history that brought me here. In a way, I was merely echoing a journey that my great-grandmother had herself made. Midway through my project, while chasing down the story the Anjarksi priest had told me of her return to Anjar, I found an old red leather photo album in the bottom drawer of my grandmother's dresser. Apparently, in the 60s, she and my great-grandfather had decided to make their own return to both the old country and the relatives that they had been separated from in the rush to flee the slaughter. I have the photographs, visits with family in Paris and Lyon, outdoor dinners with cousins in Beirut and Aleppo. There's even a single frame labeled Harput, showing the empty hillside that had once been my great-grandfather's home. A hillside that I myself had visited 2 years before. I'm not sure why I was so surprised. If I learned anything across 22 countries through encounters both chance and planned with my fellow Armenians across the globe, it's that we are all in some ways reflections of our past. Just as the echoes of my great-grandmother's life reverberates within me, the mothers I met in Paris and the mothers that I met in Armenia are each the reflections of these women who were the heart of their old country communities and who gave everything to ensure the survival of their children and then led the charge to rebuild their communities after reaching safety. The men I met playing cards in the Agump and Gorj Hamoud shared the same laughter as the men I shared tea with in Vakifla, who never left the old country. These young men, whether they're acolyte monks from Armenia or half-black altar boys in Ethiopia, keep alive the same 2,000-year-old church. And all of our kids, whether it's this young girl in India experiencing monsoon season, or these kids playing in a Lebanese refugee camp, or my own 8-year-old son, all share the same spirit of these village kids who were too full of life to ever give up, no matter how insane the world grew around them. And now, history has repeated itself again. Once again, Armenians have been forced to flee our homeland of millennia, forced to make that horrific, unimaginable choice between staying and dying or leaving with the hope to live, between saving the land and the culture, between saving our homes or our children, which of course is no choice at all. I could talk here about my time in Artsakh, but I think it's a good moment to bring Mary back so we can talk about the project we collaborated on together. I'm going to set up a slideshow that shows some of the pictures from Artsakh, and then some of the pictures, which include some of the pictures we used in our project.
First, I know Scouts work so well, and hearing you speak and revisiting your work now, I'm just reminded, I don't think there's a single person on this planet who has so widely and so devotedly documented our community than you. And we are so immensely lucky to have somebody who works so wholeheartedly to show people who we are beyond Toronto, Los Angeles, Armenia, Beirut, in every corner of the world. So thank you for doing that. So Scout and I, we are our own individual people, but we have had the opportunity to collaborate with each other. And we collaborated on a project that was a music documentary hybrid that was presented by the New York Philharmonic almost a year ago now, specifically around the displacement of Artsakh Armenians from Artsakh. And I thought, in talking about that, maybe we should even just discuss how we met, because I think a lot of the times people ask, like, how do collaborations, how do these projects actually come to be? And oftentimes they're not as organized as we like to present them to be.
This was wildly unorganized. Is this on? Okay. Yeah, it was wildly unorganized. I had done a podcast with the art critic Parag Varkanyan, who's actually from Toronto, in the wake of the 2020 war. His magazine did a whole issue about Artsakh, the loss of cultural heritage, the loss of life, and so on and so forth. And he asked me to come on and speak to a podcast. And he asked Mary to contribute some music to it, correct? Became aware of each other before this, but also through this, and discovered we both live in the same town. Now, when you do something artistic, you frequently meet amazing people, and if they ask if you want to collaborate, you always say yes, and 9 times out of 10, the only thing that comes out of it is every year you see them at a party and you say, oh yeah, we should totally do something, and nothing happens.
Yeah, but I think even, I want to go backwards a little bit, because we did know of each other. However, I did not know that you lived in my town, and living in New York, the Armenian community is extremely fragmented, and you don't often know who lives where. And I was fangirling on Scout on Twitter and following her work, and something about the way that you were communicating made me think, I think that Scout lives in Brooklyn. I'm going to randomly message this person and hope that she will get coffee with me in the neighborhood.
And I, of course, was like, oh my gosh, Mary's invited me to coffee.
Sure. So I want to bring this up of if there's someone in your mind that you want to make something with, or just want to be in their company but have imposter syndrome, or you're a little nervous about it and everyone's busy and you can think of 1,000 excuses, get over it, do it, write to that person. Chances are something amazing, chances are that something amazing will happen. So we met for coffee, and I think my intent in meeting you for coffee was actually just genuine in getting to know you and making a friend. However, at the same time, I had received this commission from the New York Philharmonic to write something, unprompted, write something for this orchestra. And in speaking with Scout and talking about this podcast that you had been on, and specifically around this idea of what does it mean to have a cultural landmark, a church, a monastery, a home, whatever it is, when that is destroyed? What happens to those traditions? How do they continue? Do they continue? Do people adapt and find new ways?
And especially in Artsakh, where so many of the traditions are connected directly to the land and what grows from the land that does not grow anywhere else, and is so rooted in place. I think we do a lot of talking about the monuments, but our interaction with the monuments is what gives them power. Dadivank is important, not just because it shows our millennia of connection with Artsakh, but because it's where we baptized our children.
And you are an amazingly vibrant person, and she's very courageous, and Scout just says, well, let's go to Armenia together. I'm like, I've known you for 15 minutes. You want to go to Armenia together? Okay.
What she doesn't know is I invite everyone to come to Armenia with me.
I'm not special. But you did, and I think we had a very specific idea of something that we wanted to make. But then maybe you could talk about how the world changed and how that changed our project together.
Yeah, I mean, we had an idea about what we were going to do, and then when we got to Armenia, we talk a lot about, there's the phrase the fog of war, but really kind of the aftermath of the war, the 2020 war in Artsakh was both literally and figuratively in a fog. I mean, you would be in the town of Stepanakert, and as you saw in some of the pictures I showed earlier, you literally could not see the buildings around you, and that is how it felt to be in Artsakh after the 2020 war. There were literally, people were getting out Google Maps and trying to figure out what the new borders were. They changed every day. This uncertainty of where you lived and what country you then lived in and who was going to protect you. Everything seemed so unstable. And that was true in Hayastan as well, not just in Artsakh. There was a sense of uncertainty, which is what we started to explore when we were there. And then came September, and the uncertainty hardened into a horrific certainty.
Yeah, so we went to Armenia together in May of 23, and Scout was taking photography in villages and communities, and I was conducting interviews with people who were just expressing that there's this tension of the unknown of what will possibly happen. And then when September came around, this project had to change, and you went back to Armenia, and you were there as refugees were crossing over the border and entering Armenia. And I wonder, the question that I have for you is, Scout is a journalist, but she is also an incredibly empathetic person who feels as we all do and isn't detached from what she is documenting. And I wanted to ask you, in moments of that, in moments of extreme crisis where you have that kind of personal connection, how do you balance your engagement with the community, what you choose to document, the stories that you're choosing to tell?
So I deliberately, when I flew over, did not take an assignment from a newspaper because I did not want this idea of journalistic objectivity to get in the way of helping however I could best help. And so if I could be best used as someone who's carrying food or helping hold someone's baby or arranging for transportation or trying to find some place for someone to stay, that's what I did. If I was more useful documenting what was the horror of what was happening, that's what I did. So I played a lot of different roles. A lot of the people who were crossing over were my friends. I had spent 10 years working in Artsakh, and so these were not strangers to me. I was very careful to approach people before photographing them. People who are in these situations, a lot of times you will see photographers treating them like they're elements in their frame. You know, they're not people. They don't have their own lives, and they're caught there. I mean, if you're waiting in line to register at a refugee center, you're not going to get out of line because some jerk is taking your picture, but you might not want your picture taken. You're not going to leave your family when your child has just fallen asleep to avoid this photographer. When people are in a situation they cannot leave, it is incredibly important for us to make sure that we don't just have, that they don't just not mind that they are actively consenting to being documented. And I think being Armenian and having spent so much time in Artsakh made a huge difference. People were, oh, you're Armenian. Oh, you're one of us. You understand why we need to document this. There was a real sense, because the Artsakhs grew up hearing about the genocide too. They all heard stories from their grandparents. You know, they grew up with the same stories we did, and so they knew that they were caught up in this same situation. It wasn't just us from the outside saying, oh my gosh, it's happening again. The Artsaksis knew it was happening again. And so for them, a lot of people wanted, especially other Armenians, to be telling our story, to be making sure that 100 years from now, or 10 years from now, or a year from now, people couldn't say, this never happened, or there's two sides to this, and so people were very welcoming. They understood the importance of it.
I think also what you're touching on, in that these are real people's experiences. It is an immense gift, whether you're taking photography or recording interviews with people or recording the sounds of their space that they are living in. It is an immense gift to be trusted with those stories. So we have to be very considerate and thoughtful, and that line of what is sharing stories and what is exploitation is very delicate.
I think for what both of us do, you're a composer and a documentarian, I'm a photographer and a documentarian, but at the end of the day, 90% of our job is being trusted and being trustworthy. Yeah. And I don't think either of us would be able to do any of this if we were not.
Of course. I think maybe just in these last few moments, another thing that we wanted to express also is that we had an opportunity of a large platform, at least as far as the classical music world goes. The New York Philharmonic feels like a large platform, especially when the news was failing to cover what was going on in Artsakh. So this is where I think being an artist means taking some risks, whether or not an institution is standing behind you. Whether or not we had the support of this organization, we still chose to tell this story of displacement. And in this process, the marketing for this event seemed to drop off. Arts institutions often don't want to take a political stance, so it was on us to be loud, to get attention for this performance.
At first, there was they recorded these videos with that. They had no idea. They had never heard about Artsakh. They'd never heard about Nagorno-Karabakh. They barely knew where Armenia was. They knew we had funny last names, but
yeah.
And so they recorded all these interviews with us. They did videos. There was going to be this whole promotional wing, and then they started to find out. And then they got worried about pushback.
Yes, but we still presented our piece, and the amazing thing that happened was this large venue in Lincoln Center was completely filled with Armenians. I'd never seen that many Armenians in New York before, and over the course of this piece, it became this really special moment for... Thank you for hanging with us. We're almost done. It really became this really special moment for processing, for all of us to come together, especially as a community that had felt so detached. Our feelings in North America, when we know that these difficult things are happening in our homeland, is often this feeling of helplessness and detachment. So to come together and have that space to reflect, I think was really, really important.
Does anyone have any questions?
Are we doing a Q&A?
No? Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary and Scout, for sharing your insight and your experiences with us. Your words truly inspired and energized us, and I know when you guys were talking about Artsakh with the slideshow and everything, everyone was very much touched. I definitely was holding back my tears. We would like to invite ARS Toronto Roubina Chapter's Executive Chair, Ani Hotoyan Jolie, to present our token of appreciation to our incredible keynote speakers. Fun fact, one of the gifts is directly from Armenia, from Motif Natural Pearl Accessories. And the other gift is a book called Portraits of Canadian Women Who Inspire by Gerja Neubacher.
Շատ շնորհակալ ենք Սկաուտ եւ Մարի, որ ընդառաջեցիք մեր հրավերին եւ ձեր կյանքի եւ արվեստի պատմությունը եւ փորձառությունը փոխանցեցիք մեզ, որոնք հաստատ քաջալերական եւ օրինակ պիտի ելան մեր նոր դաղանտներուն։ Շնորհակալ ենք։ Փեմ կհրավիրենք ընկերուհյանի Հոթոյանի։
Արդեն կհրավիրենք։
Հրամեցեք։ Այսօրվա հուշանվերները նվիրված են մոտիվ վաճառատուն Երևան Հայաստանն եւ նաեւ Գերդա Նյուբերգեն նվիրված քիրքերը Portrait of Canadian Woman Who Inspire անունով կնվիրենք մեր հյուրերուն։
Մոտեցի։
All right, everyone, it's time to shift gears and dive into the world of fashion. The second half of our event is all about what's hot and happening in spring, summer 2025 trends. We're thrilled to have with us the incredibly talented Stefani Masarejan Hagopian. Stephanie's passion for design runs deep, having grown up surrounded by fashion through her family's business, Easy by Night High Fashion Handbags. And I'm sure most of you have noticed those bags sitting in the corner. They're beautiful, beautiful bags for sale. A graduate of Ryerson University, Stephanie's design journey took her to Paris after winning prestigious awards like the Alfred Sun Design Award and the Lancôme Fashion Design Competition. In 2009, she launched Stemma by Stephanie Moss, specializing in bridal and evening gowns. More recently, this multi-talented lady and her mother launched Mom's Pantry & Co., offering healthier baked goods, all while styling up Frida's, which is a luxury boutique that's provided us these, and contributing to INSI. Today, she'll be sharing her expertise and giving us a sneak peek into the must-have trends for the upcoming season. All the stunning clothing you'll see is generously provided by Frida's and the beautiful handbags by INSI. So get ready to be inspired. This is one fashion-forward segment you won't want to miss. Are you ready to have some fun? Okay. I wanted to say thank you to all the committee members who worked so hard to put this beautiful event together. And it's not easy this day and age to bring 400 women together in one room and put all these tables together, organize everything from raffle tickets to making this room look beautiful and bringing these guest speakers who are so inspirational. It's just amazing, and I think as women we should be so proud of how far we've come, and when we come together and work as a group and uplift one another and support one another, the things we can achieve are far greater than anyone could ever expect. So, huge thanks to the committee members right from the beginning, the guest speakers who have done incredible work putting together our story through visuals and sound and art. It's absolutely incredible. And now we're all about talking about how to feel good. When we dress well, we feel good. And it's not about the trends. Yes, we are going to talk about colors and trends and stuff like that for this season. But I really believe that people need to see and find their true colors. You need to see what speaks to you and what makes you happy. So today is all about creating happiness through your clothing and showing of the top colors for this season, so brown is not going anywhere. Continue to incorporate it into your wardrobe. There's a lot of neutral beige, which we've hit on Captain's wardrobe. And milky white. So that pure creamy white is such a big trend. You can incorporate that in your t-shirts, your white shirts, little details through your accessories. So we've got a lot of pastels. You're going to be seeing those through all of our models. We've been doing, we're showing a lot of mint green, pastel pink, and butter yellow. And it's all about pop colors. So tangerine orange, tomato red, bright blue, and dark navy. So here are our trends. Hatin is here showing us the ballet core inspiration and bubble heads. So it's all about creating volume with your outfit. So if you're smaller on your upper body, it's nice to create a little bit of volume from the bottom. So you're going to be seeing this in evening gowns, but this is a really nice casual day look, transitioning from spring to summer. Obviously, it's all about layering. So here we have this beautiful pastel blue shirt with the beading of the bows. And we've got a little bit of the exotic prints, which I'll be talking about in my next slide. It's really nice to incorporate some animal prints into a more neutral color scheme. It just adds a bit of pop. Zebra is making a huge comeback, along with leopard and cow prints, and you'll see all of those. We've paired it with the bubble skirt, and we've done a really great creamy soft with Oxford shoe. This can be great from during the day to an evening look, and it's an easy transition. This is a great Lindsay bag. This can transition from a crossbody bag to a clutch. So you just remove the handle, and she can wear it as just a clutch. Once we pair it for evening, because that's what we were talking about, that was the whole thing, to show you how you can take a day look and make it a night look. So imagine this is not on Patil anymore. And so we would suggest, let me do this, yeah. We would suggest doing like a net turtleneck. She could do a beautiful cami underneath, and pair it with a great pair of black boots or black heels. That's our day tonight for Patil. Yeah. So walk your look through the living room. I'm sure they'd love to see it. This was the exotic print slide that I was talking about. These are just great inspirational photos for you to get ideas from. Cal print is coming back. Oh, thank you. Okay. So, Cal print is coming back. Although you may not want to do a full garment in a Cal print, I totally understand. It would be nice to do it in a shoe, a running shoe, as this whole athletic look is really making its statement in the fashion world. So there's a lot of leopard, there's some great belts to incorporate with, and we have all of these items at Frida's, who is our clothing sponsor today. Sunny? Model for actually contacting me and bringing this all together. They really wanted to make sure that you guys are able to see how much fashion can change your mood, uplift your spirit, and create a feeling of wellness. Because it is all about fit, and it is all about feeling confident in your clothes. So here on Zani, we put a great denim, and we're talking a lot about wide leg denim. This was very flattering, we thought, because it elongates her legs. We've touched the high shine metallic trend with her camisole, which is absolutely beautiful. We've done a bit of the jewelry and this beautiful Rajans color that you see in the jacket. I do really like incorporating belts because I do feel like it highlights your waist. Some people don't like wearing it, but I really think incorporating belts and showing off your waistband is a nice detail because it cinches in your waist and it shows your figure better. So we're going to transition Zani from a day to night. Oh, I forgot to talk about the pastel bag. This is an Indy bag. It gives you that Chanel-inspired look with the points. I love this color because it's easy to wear. You could also wear it with chocolate browns, neutrals, anything like that. Pastels are huge, so incorporating it into accessories is a great option. Let's take your jacket off. Trend that is so huge. This is a great way of showing how metallics have become a neutral in people's wardrobe. This is a beautiful line out of Montreal. It's all about supporting Canadian designers now. With everything going on in the world, we should really look into who we're buying clothing from. So supporting Canadian businesses is a thing that I would true to, and I think that we should all make an effort to try to support Canadian companies. So this is a beautiful Canadian designer who's designed the combination of the gold camisole and the jacket. Another option for later, if you wanted to go out a little dressier at night, you could do a great black pant here and go out with the gold jacket and camisole. But we do want to show you that denim is not just for the day. Denim is transitioning into more nighttime events. People are wearing denim a lot more than they used to. And I love pairing it with a beautiful, mesh, soft, glittery bag, just to elevate the look. Okay, thank you, Zani. The pink that you see. So it's a nice way to incorporate color into spring. colors again, but it's on black, so it's figure flattering. And this is a great piece to have in your wardrobe because not only can you pair it with the pink, but you can pair it with the blue, the chartreuse, the gray, or you can even do a full black look and the beading is adding the color for you. Here, we decided to pair the cobalt blue first with it, just to pick up the purple and the blues in the jacket and to break up the whole pink look. But I think you have a solid look here and pieces that you can mix with so many other items. Pleasure. So about the athleisure look, I'm wearing that athleisure look, I would say, and it's all about wearing it with a t-shirt, putting a bustier on top, and the double waistband with a lot of the Adidas stripe that you see casual wear can be paired up with heels. This is a beautiful Legence fuchsia jacket, just adding a little bit more color. As I have dark hair and fair skin, it's just an easy way to add a punch of color into your wardrobe. I'm going to ask for Flora to come up. Flora is in a beautiful Kabila dress showing the, I just want to show the neckline too as well. So this is a beautiful dress that I believe pulls up the bohemian chic look that we were talking about. I really want to get that slide. Sorry, ready? Yeah. The next one. There we go. Okay. So the boho chic look is all about incorporating florals, color, pattern into your wardrobe. It's done in a very tasteful way. I decided for this sort of casual day look to take this dress and put it with a denim jacket. I think that picks up on Flora's color very nicely, adds a punch, and breaks up the pattern that you see. I also love pairing it with a neutral bag. This can be worn as a crossbody. And the reason why we wanted to show this look is because all of these items are very lightweight. As we go into the spring-summer season, a lot of people are going on vacations. This is a great dress to pick up and have in your closet because you can travel with this entire look and then break it up. So you could wear this as a casual, the way we've styled it, or you can dress this up. So let's show you how to do that. And I wanted to show the belt that we incorporated into this dress. The crocodile in the chocolate brown just breaks up the colors. You can totally wear this dress on its own as an evening look. There's an evening bag, which gives a really nice mesh metallic look. And I do really want to show it with the blazer here. So Roubina does all the blazers in-house, and they're cut and made very, very well. It's a great look because what we can do here, I'll take the evening bag from your hand. What we would do here is she could also pair this look and change her shoes to a pair of chocolate brown boots and wear it maybe to the office in the spring and turn it into more of a day look. But I do really love the cut and fit of this. Another way I wanted to show it is by doing the white blazer. So this to me is the perfect look. It's one I think you love the look. Go show it off. I think you look fabulous. The color looks, yes. So this is another one of Frida's jackets. Again, all made in Canada. It's actually made in Toronto. These jackets are phenomenal. I could ask the ladies when they came in to try on their outfits at the store, how good did it feel? Beautiful. Yeah. It looks very good on you. So I wanted to show a little bit of the Bordeaux because Bordeaux is not going anywhere. Bordeaux is that kind of thing that you can mix with whites and creams and gold for a summer look. Here we've done a beautiful sparkly gold top, which is very neutral with Hood's coloring as it matches her skin tone and her hair. I love doing a long necklace on this neckline because it creates an elongated look and your eye seems to go north-south as opposed to horizontal. This is another great pant that I think fits Hood very well in a puffed capri sort of shape. And ties are a huge look right now. So this could be worn as a belt, but you could later on take it off and wear it as a necktie. Very nice neutral. And we paired it with, again, the metallic trend that's very in the handbag. So it's a soft gold, pulling the gold top that she's wearing underneath this blazer. She could go to the office with this look or attend any event like this. Now we're going to take her outfit and turn it into a more evening look. Collecting a lot of clothes on this side. Here, I wanted to show this beautiful piece that just came in, and this shows the asymmetric trend that they're showing a lot of. Again, vertical lines elongate, and this is just something nice to make women feel confident, because a lot of us, as we age, our bodies are changing, and what happens is we don't feel as confident as we once did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But these are items that you would pick up to find and build your wardrobe and cover up the spots that we are not so confident about anymore. But it's really nice to do a monochromatic look here with the navy trend and pop it with the high shine and the gold. And we wanted to pair it with this great tan bag. Just like that. This clutch is the hottest look right now because everybody is talking about golden bags and an east-west shape. The crossbody strap can come off and you can actually wear it as a clutch. This can go from day to night as well. And I wanted to elevate Hood's outfit one last time. No, you're not wearing it here. But what we wanted to show is that if you wanted to go a little bit dressier and take the outfit to another level, a great way of doing this is by going all in the gold metallic and throwing the navy light sheer pleated top on top, creating a more monochromatic look, creating more elongation and flattering her body as she's so tall. You're welcome. This is a beautiful gown that we workmanship of the sequins. I love the slit. It's very tastefully done. Let's show the back. The boning on this dress is beautiful. As we know, wedding season is fast approaching, along with weddings, graduations, proms. So we just wanted to show that Frida's does carry gowns like this that would be amazing for a grad or a prom. I think you'd like this dress for a grad. So I paired this with a great acrylic box bag. It's beautiful. She could wear this even with jeans later on. But I thought this pairs really nicely with the dress. Again, you're seeing a lot of florals through this season. But this is done in a really tasteful sort of way that will be a forever classic in your wardrobe. Perfect. Thank you, Patsy. So if you keep looking through the slides, I put together color combinations that you could take inspiration from for this season. But these beautiful models, these day-to-day models, are showing you how to move forward into the season and be able to take one item and wear it over and over again in different ways. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think I could have imagined